all children of the Buddha to create future affinities together as one, which is named in Chinese, 山川异域，日月同天，祭诸佛子，共结来缘. In the face of this great loss, we are all learning to make peace with this tremendous grief. And at the same time, we are also doing our best to carry forth the wisdom and vision he had bequeathed us, vowing to continue the legacy until he returns on the wings of his vows again. Venerable Master Xing Yun certainly changed my life, and I hope I do not offend anyone by saying the same for you. At the same time, we have come to a transition point between having enjoyed the presence of one of this century's wisest and compassionate Buddhist teachers who illuminated a wonderful and relevant path of spiritual cultivation for us, to the next phase of navigating the future of Buddhism on our own. It is one thing to learn and practice in the presence of our teacher. It is another to explore on our own whilst remembering what he taught us. Before, we had someone to turn to for guidance and questions. And now, we must explore the answers on our own. It is one thing to embrace the revolution brought forth by Venerable Master Xing Yun. It is another to continue the legacy of humanistic Buddhism, which he defines as what the Buddha taught, what human beings need, what purifies, and what is virtuous and beautiful. For the study and practices of humanistic Buddhism, it has also transitioned from a sprouting seed into a ripening fruit. The studies of humanistic Buddhism went from a young and barely recognized field of study, especially in the West, into a growing treasure of primary and secondary literature that offer broader historical, textual, exegetical, and practical perspectives of the Buddhist faith. In the past, scholars linked Venerable Master's ideals of humanistic Buddhism to the mentors such as Master Taixu, Venerable Chihang, Zhang Taiyan, Liang Qichao, Tang Yongtong, and Zhao Puchu. Most of these Buddhist masters and forward-thinking scholars or leaders proposed the urgency to reform Buddhist practices, to reform monastic systems, and to reform ways of teaching the Dharma by introducing Western scholastic methodology. More importantly, most placed heavy emphasis on Chinese Mahayana Buddhism as the essential path of universal deliverance, and a means to spread Buddhism on a global scale, as well as achieve world peace. Today, while the basis of critical analysis, qualitative and quantitative researches of humanistic Buddhism have been established, another progress that emerged in the past decade is an obvious shift away from mere criticism to constructive comments and assessments on the more effective spread of humanistic Buddhism through interdisciplinary studies in the fields such as education, sociology, history, literature, arts, music, museology, and new media, which have all been realized and put into practice at various branches and departments of佛光山. To Venerable Master, the study of humanistic Buddhism needs to bring forth interfaith harmony, interdisciplinary harmony, ethical harmony, racial harmony, sectarian harmony, and ultimately harmony on all 5 levels, on the individual, interpersonal, family, social, and world harmony. In other words, how do we see the contribution of the Buddhist faith and practices to the rites of passage so that human life can be consummated under the inspirations and guidance of the Dharma? This should be our ultimate finding in our future studies and research. And this ultimate finding, defined in one simple word, is enlightenment. Enlightenment for people of the 21st century, where we stay deeply connected to real life, where we make Dharma available, where we keep Dharma practical. Today, as佛光山 continues to thrive across the world's 5 continents, we witness the maturation of the causes and conditions which Venerable Master Xing Yun created from as early as the 1950s. When he began to travel the world and responded to earnest requests of Chinese immigrants seeking to take root in America, Europe, Oceania, Africa, and built temples that have since served as a spiritual harbor and a place for many to touch base with the Buddhist religion. These 200-plus temples have thrived in diverse ways, endeavoring to meet with the devotees' and patrons' needs for the Dharma. The佛光山Institute of Humanistic Buddhism has since published original and translated papers on the fundamental concepts of humanistic Buddhism, on humanistic Buddhism in theory and practice as advocated by Venerable Master Xing Yun, Buddhism and globalization, in other words, localization across the globe, as well as humanistic living Chan. These 60-plus papers cover a wide range of humanistic Buddhist studies in terms of its development and current spread. And published in 5 volumes, they're all available on display during this conference at the back of the shrine for you. So free copies are there for you to take home with you to further your understanding and studies. Okay. What I'd like to discuss with you today is what will be involved in the future studies of humanistic Buddhism, the now and then. I believe we're all experiencing the now. So how do we actually foresee the then? This will be my major concern for today. In 2021, Australia's Nantian Institute hosted the 8th Humanistic Buddhism Symposium online with the theme, Humanistic Buddhist Response to Modern Crisis. In the keynote speech delivered by Dr. Louis R. Lancaster, Emeritus Professor of UC Berkeley, he offered timely and relevant connecting points between humanistic Buddhism and the modern world, which is worth mentioning in my speech for today for us to better understand the then of the studies of humanistic Buddhism. First of all, let's talk about humanistic Buddhism as a response to the modern world. We are mostly concerned with whether Buddhism offers answers and solutions to many of the world's current issues, such as war, environmentalism, mental health, and the sustainable development of the world as a whole. Dr. Lancaster said in his speech, quote, "There are contemporary approaches to the use of Buddhist practices that can be considered revolutionary in terms of how we study and evaluate the tradition. Since these practices are directed towards the public domain, they are one type of humanistic Buddhism. A challenge for Buddhist groups is how to respond to these developments. A similar challenge exists for the academic study of Buddhism. How can we understand and deal with the contemporary world that has emerged?" Unquote. As mentioned in the opening of my speech, Venerable Master defines humanistic Buddhism partly as what human beings need, 人要的. And 人要的, or what human beings need, is based on what the Buddha taught, 佛说的. So how do we bring the Buddhist practice into the picture of everyday life so that those who come to access it feels that the Buddhist faith or tradition is a helpful one in leading a better life? That's probably our major concern today. One example I'm going to use is the Belia Scouts, 佛光童军团. And we understand the objectives of the Belia Scouts for children from toddlers to primary schoolers are aimed at acquiring problem-solving skills, learning the ethical ways of proper human relationships, to develop a sense of community and establish willingness to be of service. You will see that these goals and trainings are all based on the 3 acts of goodness, 三好运动, do good deeds, speak good words, and think good thoughts. These are translated from canonical language into the vernacular. And these are the 3 acts of goodness which symbolize the purification of one's physical, verbal, and mental deeds, starting at a young age. And so the example of Blia Scouts is a transition from conventional children's Sunday schools, which used to take place inside temples, where children were sat down in class and required to repeat readings of ethical teachings. If you've been there, you know what I mean. Okay. But these are now translated into action and human interactions in the actual exercises and projects for Blia Scouts. And I believe this is what purifies, a way to understand and respond to the modern needs of education for younger people as a part of the whole person education and character building. As for family harmony, at Fo Guang Shan, families are able to attend tea ceremonies, choir, reading groups, outdoor gatherings, and many practical classes, as well as volunteer opportunities together, so that they're able to appreciate family time together and create shared memories. Unlike traditional temples that separate husband and wife in the lodges, family rooms are offered so they feel a sense of togetherness on this spiritual journey as one. Furthermore, children not only learn to pay respect to the Buddha statues or venerables, they're also learning in these practices the ways to pay attention and to show appreciation to what their parents have done for them. For example, bringing home from a class the skills of making tea and offering a cup of fragrant drink to their parents as a way to say thank you. In place of repentance ceremonies, which mark the severance of karmic hindrances for one's parents, children now learn at a young age to take practical and relevant actions to parents who are not accustomed to these rituals. They work just as well. And I believe this is what is virtuous and beautiful. In seeking the Buddhist response to modern crisis, compassion is the answer. Wisdom offers the solution, while action ascertains relevance. These are like the 3 jewels that one cannot do without in their realization of the Buddha's wisdom. Just as in the Avatamsaka's Gandavyuha, Huayan Jing Rufa Jieping, Sudana's quest to meet his 53 Kalyana Mitras, Sanzhishi. His starting person was Manjusri, who symbolizes profound wisdom, while his final stop was with Samantabhadra, who symbolizes actual in-depth practice that requires a certain level of innovation to make sure that we cater to the needs and aptitudes of sentient beings so that the Dharma becomes effective in the process of teaching. The way to awakening our Buddha within must couple with both wisdom and practice so that we're able to witness a smooth transition from religiosity to everyday Dharma for everyday life. That is humanistic Buddhism. Secondly, as we think about humanistic Buddhism as a contemporary practice of Chan, we think of humanistic living Chan, 人间生活禅, as a way to answer to the modern day need for mindfulness practices. In terms of the new mindfulness movement in the West, which many now refer to as beyond mindfulness or off the cushion meditation, Dr. Lancaster once again reminded us that, quote, a large number of new approaches to meditation are now widely advertised and marketed. Under the term mindfulness, these exercises promise to develop certain powers such as relaxation, better concentration, health, and a sense of well-being. The focus is on procedures. A routine method must be followed. A product is brought into being as a result of effort. There is debate as to whether this is progress or abasement. If meditation as a practice is taught to be essential for the goal of practitioners in Buddhism, then it is difficult to hold the position that it should only be the activity of a privileged few. However, in the process of moving from the controlled environment of monastic life to the internet approach of the mindfulness programs for all, there are a host of questions about how successful such a transfer could be. Today, the study of consciousness has become a major part of cognitive science, and Buddhist meditation has found a home in science labs. Having made it to these sites of new technology, in some ways, meditation has moved from being viewed as a metaphysical experience to the mainstream of science and quantitative analysis. This has given the practice a new imprimatur of respectability and perceived usefulness. Thus, in our contemporary world, the trail by which Buddhism is making inroads into social and cultural spheres leads not just to monasteries, shrines, or religious organizations. Instead, we can see the imprint of influence taking place in universities, public schools, business headquarters, hospitals, mental health clinics, prisons, internet sites, and films. Much of the documentation of this is still limited to the internet and has not yet found its way into the published scholarly volumes. A major business example for Buddhist meditation adoption can be found with Google, where the results are expected to be displayed in the workplace. As a part of the corporate structure, it is referred to as science-backed mindfulness, and that is used for emotional intelligence training. Led by an engineer in the contemporary Chan Meng-Tang, Google has supported the Search Inside Yourself Institute that serves the employees and is now being offered to the general public. The underlying objectives are aimed at dealing with issues such as managing your energy. It is now possible on the Google campus to have a mindfulness luncheon where participants observe silence, and on the grounds of the headquarters, there is a labyrinth built for walking meditation. Okay, so walk your way into your lost future, walk your way into a dead end, or walk your way into a new exit. It's truly up to you. All of the above methods or products have been designed to remedy modern-day illnesses such as greed, anger, anxiety, and distorted senses of values. In order to revitalize the age of Chan, 禅的时代, enable a greater sense of connection with the self, with the bodhicitta, and with the bodhisattva path,佛光山introduced humanistic living Chan, 人间生活禅, that involves procedures and practices suitable for modern-day urban life and modern-day physicality and mentality. A concept still in development waiting to mature, humanistic living Chan embodies the following. Number one, the purpose is to attain Bodhi wisdom with a sense of ease and comfort without everyday action. In walking, in sleeping, in talking, in anything you do as the part of your everyday life. That's all. Second, the spirit of humanistic living Chan is the fact that an ordinary mind can connect with the simplest matters of life. And thirdly, the value of humanistic living Chan is to take root in faith, in spirituality and loving kindness, so that we can remain flexible with matters, yet firmly rooted on such roots. Fourthly, what is the practice of humanistic living Chan? It is consistent application, simplicity and gratitude, where we learn to appreciate every part of life with contentment and self-discipline. Number 5, how do we apply humanistic living Chan? In simple words, be practical, be creative, be flexible, so that we are always ready to face the changes and challenges of life. Putting my words, just enjoy life as it is, even when it sucks. The practice of mindfulness and living Chan will continue to evolve and change, leaving scholars much to experience and understand for putting it into actual writing. Such transfer from still meditation cushions to active movement will remain an important part of studies of humanistic Buddhism for sure. And finally, I would like to talk to you about humanistic Buddhism as a practice in the digital age. What is the role of Buddhist organizations to such efforts that are receiving widespread exposure for the general public on the internet, television, and film media? How will Buddhist groups respond to the inclusion of such practices in elementary, secondary, and college education? I share this all the time. From 15 years ago, we were already learning of the information that more than 8 million elementary school students in the UK are experiencing mindfulness classes 5 minutes before their class. All they're being asked to do is to sit down in silence, observe their breath, and do nothing else. And the results were tremendous. What you saw were the fact that children were able to concentrate better, and they gained a greater sense of perception and observation. So when they interviewed a grade 4 little girl on how she found those 5-minute mindfulness sessions in class, she said, "Great, they helped me a lot. They're really wonderful." And so the journalist pressed on, "In what way did these 5 minutes meditation help you?" And she said, "Well, you see, I have a younger brother. He's very annoying. So whenever he annoys me and I want to hit him, I take a deep breath. And the sense of urgency to hit my brother goes away. That's why I like mindfulness meditation." Okay. Yeah. And so these developments present a challenge of no scale. How do we keep it going? For years, people have wondered what a Western form of Buddhism would be like. So these are also on the shoulders of many of us here today who speak English, who received our teachings and trainings in a Western background. In many ways, these mindfulness programs may be the largest development yet seen for a massive Buddhist movement in the societies of Europe and North America. There are also problems to be faced in the situation. Would the program simply take an original seed of Buddhist teaching and practice and adapt it to a circular and more easily acceptable format? In the process, will the Buddhist heritage become invisible? Does the current approach provide the best of Buddhist teachings and thought? Dr. Lancaster believes that the present moment in new technology, new media, and new interest in the value of Buddhist practices is an unprecedented opportunity for humanistic Buddhism. There is suddenly a vast audience of people who have not previously been involved in the religion. It is an audience that will not easily find a home in the Buddhist temple that primarily meets the needs of immigrant communities from Asian nations. The languages of discourses are not those of most Buddhists. The use of neuroscience and computers, including handheld devices, is not a zone of comfort for many monastics. This world of digital social networking is as foreign for many Buddhist teachers as the Buddhist temple is to an American or European. There are a great many questions to be asked, and the answers will not come easily. Nonetheless, there's an opportunity at this time, but it may be short-lived because the world is changing at a much faster pace than 20 years ago. If interest lags, the digital age has taught us that what is supreme in one time and place is easily cast aside. That's where we are now. We all have to learn how to reinvent ourselves if we want to remain relevant in a fast-paced world of change. These mindfulness programs will face the same dilemma. What seems new and promising today may be superseded in short order before we know it. The fact that so many in Europe and America are responding to mindfulness is a reflection of great social and personal needs. If humanistic Buddhism lives up to its name, such needs are to be recognized, and strategies for support and help are forthcoming. Venerable Master Xing Yun has certainly been a part of the revolution. He had used film, internet, radio, and television to reach out beyond the walls of the monasteries. No other Buddhist leaders has been as successful in this endeavor. The emerging global communities have opened new doors, and he believed that humanistic Buddhism should step through these doors and provide support for that era. I think we have to once again look at the open door of today and ask the question of how to step through it, provide support, and most importantly, remain relevant. In conclusion, how do we remain relevant in a fast-changing world? How do we reinvent our understanding and practice of the Dharma in a world that is bringing people closer and closer together? Before we have answers to the above questions, we must be aware of the following. That is, our expressions of the canonical works, liturgy and procedures, and also the other ways to present the Dharma in any practical and everyday way will be superseded before we know it. Okay. If humanistic Buddhism lives up to its name, such needs are to be recognized. Strategies for support and help must be established. Venerable Master Xing Yun has certainly been that part. And now it's all about understanding the ways of human beings from the Buddha's view. In simple terms, the Bodhisattva path. How do we make a vow to place the well-being of all sentient beings before one's own? In the process of this selfless cultivation, the wisdom of shunyata thus develops, and we therefore become one with the entire Dharma realm, the universe, all sentient beings, and all phenomena. For this reason, I end my speech with the words of Venerable Master Xing Yun in his message, an honest revelation, my final words. He said, "With a heart filled with compassion and vows to save others, my body is like the ocean of the Dharma unbound. Should you ask, what have I achieved in this lifetime? Peace and happiness now shine over the 5 continents." So action, the first thing. Second keyword, relevance. Third keyword, adaptation to the fast-changing world, are all something which we must all put into consideration in establishing new strategies to bring this Chinese Mahayana Bodhisattva path forth. So the idea of bringing happiness and peace to the entire humanity may be possible. Thank you very much. This is all I have to share today.
非常感谢妙光法师带这么精彩的讲座。
Thank you for such a wonderful and inspiring sharing. Next, we will be proceeding with our networking lunch at level 3, and we will begin our Chinese plenary session at 1:30.
Sorry to interrupt. We have another 10 minutes, correct?
We still have time. So.
Oh, okay. Well, if everyone's not too hungry, may I propose that we leave the 10 minutes, perhaps to question and answers or for comments?
So does anyone has any questions? So if you do, just kindly raise your hand and then we will bring the microphone towards you.
Thank you so much for the time. My name is Wilson. I come from Indonesia. And I know about the humanistic Buddhism since I joined with the youth camp of Buddhism in Mendut in GVA last year. And actually, as you know, I'm Muslim, but I learned about the humanistic Buddhism and I joined about this program. So by joining about this humanistic of Buddhism, I know about some of the connecting between Buddhism and another religion, and we can make sure about our connecting each other. So I hope by joining about the humanistic Buddhism, maybe we can make sure about anything about research project, especially in Indonesia. Just only the comment. Thank you so much.
Venerable, I sincerely believe that Singapore have a great opportunity for humanistic Buddhism. Not only in Singapore, you see the Australia, they also, why? The religious harmony. The whole world actually, there is a great opportunity for humanistic Buddhism because the world peace and also the religious harmony. So we should take advantage of the opportunity for Singapore. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Hello. Hi, thank you so much, Venerable Miao Guang, for delivering a very insightful talk. I think I have a question for you as an insider perspective. You have mentioned that action is very important, adaptability is also, and relevance. So from an insider perspective, what do you think in terms of education context? How can we move forward with humanistic Buddhism? How can we include more people, inclusive education? Yeah.
Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for the question. Yes. Education certainly has a very close connection with the Buddhist endeavor, because sometimes when we translate 佛教, 佛陀的教育, right, we understand Buddhism as a Buddhist education for a whole person growth. And to answer your question, based on my observation, the Buddhist undertakings that take place in the education department, for example, what you have seen with the kids in Singapore, in Tsidai Kindergarten. I've once visited Tsidai Kindergarten and observed the interactions between the teachers and the children. And what fully touched me was that in the whole day's education, there is really not a word of teaching, not a word of guidance. The teachers simply accompanied these children in their everyday rites. But in the accompanying of these everyday rites, these children establish wonderful physical, verbal, and mental habits. So I believe at an early stage of a person's life, what we are incorporating in the Buddhist perspective really is that leading by example, and so that children grow up from a very early age to become accustomed to the Dharma teaching at a young age. And then the second example I see is at Dongchan Temple in Malaysia, where they organized young 这是什么那个马来西亚的那个佛教青年领袖，那个对携手同源。Yeah. So in Dongchan Temple, maybe I should ask one of the venerables from Malaysia to share better. But based on my understanding, in a secondary education level, what Buddhism is really doing, again, is to train and nurture in this future and aspiring leaders of the future, extracurricular activities. And so what you do is, when we speak of the Dharma as the need to really be put into action and to be applied to people, that sense of community becomes priceless. I might remind you, although it's quite regular for all of us to see children and students learning in Asia as a community, it may not be as valuable as an experience in the West. And so being together, what we are really learning in and seeing in the children's perspective is the injected Buddhist values such as generosity, and even discipline. Discipline is such a huge thing for young people. When they're in the presence of other human beings, when they're learning the ethical ways of human relationships, and when they're learning to also befriend themselves, especially their own thoughts of discomfort and anger. And these are all done in these leadership workshops at Malaysia Dongzhen Temple. Batches of 800 students coming to the temple every day. And what you see is, again, I think the wonder and the wisdom of the Dharma being taught without ever speaking one single word of the Dharma. So the transformation from religiosity into everyday action is thus completed through that process of internalization. So in other words, be it the primary school children or secondary children example that I've seen, The greatest form of Buddhist education comes down in 2 words: self-awakening, 自觉, which is also what Venerable Master had shared with us. 自觉的教育胜过一切的教育. And it couples with the very empirical aspect of the learning of Dharma as well. If you never experience the wisdom, it cannot be a part of you. Yeah, so that would be the true whole value of self-awakening through action, relevancy, and adaptation. I hope that answers your question. Okay. 谢谢。
Auspicious greeting to everybody and auspicious greeting to Venerable Miao Guang. Thank you for today's speech. I really enjoy all the words that you say. And I just want to also let you know that there's something quite surprisingly I noticed, all right? Your name, Venerable Miao Guang, for those who, if you're not bilingual, Miao Guang can be translated as amazing light. Why do I bring it up? Because while seated here, I really noticed the amazing light. This is the power of nature. In the beginning, the sun was actually shining over your head. And as you talk, when you say stay relevant, you must be adaptive and so on, the sun moves on. And now the sun is shining over Buddha statue's head. What I'm trying to bring in a point is really stay relevant, reinvent yourself, and adaptation. Those of you, if you are like in Hokkien, we say "lao kok kok" like me. That means when you are in a senior citizen in your last lap of life, then you still need to reinvent yourself. You still need to stay relevant, and you need to adapt to environment. And that is what I'm trying to learn in today. And I think my takeaway from you, Venerable Miao Guang, is these 3 words that I will remember, and I hope to carry on. Thank you very much for your sharing.
Thank you, Dr. Fong. You may not realize I'm actually dripping in sweat because of the sunlight. Yeah. But I do enjoy the Guang that's shining through me. And the sunlight did cause a bit of a problem because I wasn't able to read my script on the iPad. But the good thing is you can move the iPad back and forth. Yeah. So there's adaptability. Thank you very much. We'll work together as one. 谢谢.
Do we have any more questions from the floor or any comments? Okay, if not, then we will once again thank Venerable Miao Guang for her amazing keynote lecture.
让我们再一次以热烈掌声感谢妙光法师为我们带来这么精彩的分享。谢谢妙光法师。好，让我们再一次以热烈掌声感谢妙光法师。好，接下来我们将移步到佛光山3楼进行午餐交流会。也温馨提醒各位，在下午1点20分回到大殿，因为我们的中文座谈会将在下午1点半准时进行。谢谢。
Next, we will be proceeding with our networking lunch at level 3, and we will be beginning our Chinese preliminary session at 1:30. Kindly please be seated by 1:20. Thank you.